Hello and welcome back to the Property Empress podcast. My name's Richard, and with me, as always, well, not always anymore, with me again this time round is Anna Pierce. Good evening, Anna. Hello.
Hello. Nice to have you back.
Thank you very much. Yes, I have returned. I seem to be in a different location every single time we talk. At the minute.
Yes.
And yet we have yet a new place here. So this is fascinating. So we have battled the technology issues that we always have. And we are recording. the joy.
It is really nice to be back. I do love this space. I love sharing with everyone. It was, the last 2 weeks has been very strange. So it's really nice to have you here.
I'm pleased to be back. So while we have everything's working and stable and things are recording properly, we are going to jump straight into this week's episode. And we're going to be talking about how to find, I was going to say reliable, but I guess that's what we want, isn't it? How to find reliable...
Ideally.
reliable tradespeople, we've decided.
Yes.
Can't say
politically correct, yeah.
Yeah, how to find reliable tradespeople for your project, whatever it is, big or small. Because it's a big problem.
Yes. Exactly. And that, honestly, that seems to be one of the key issues that put people off from property investing, because they've had a horrible experience with tradespeople or tradesmen at their own home. And then they're like, I can't imagine, I want to do property, but I can't imagine like having to go through that again. So yeah, knowing how to find a good team of tradesmen and tradeswomen. I'm trying to think if we've ever, sure we must have had women. We tend to have men. It is a very male dominated industry. But yeah, how to find trustworthy, honest and available tradespeople to do the renovations, big and small. So yeah, we're gonna talk about that today, because I have lots of thoughts and lots to say on the subject, because we have had an overall very positive experience. And I look back now and I think it was pure dumb luck that I got off to quite a good start with finding. And I'll basically talk about how I've found tradesmen the same way from, when I started. This is the approach I took, and I still take the approach today. But it wasn't something that, I don't think it was taught to me. I think I just stumbled across it, and it just works really well. So I'll share it today.
Okay, so first of all, is it actually a problem, or is this a thing that people think is a problem? So are there so many examples of people having nightmares that it's a problem still, or is this just a thing that, like a cliche that people think is a problem?
It definitely is a problem. I can tell you, only because that's what people tell me. I've got lots and lots of different people who have contacted me through my TikToks and whatnot and said that they've had a nightmare. Something just we've got gremlins tonight, I think, with the tech. Can you hear me okay? It made a noise.
Oh, did
Hang on. You all right?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, mine's still working. Right,
Good.
panic over. It's all good. It's all good. Right,
Okay,
I'll talk really fast. It definitely is. I think it definitely is still a problem. Because that's what I was going to say. What seems to be the problem, I honestly think, with most things is communication. I think when people are, whether it's the renovation project, like as in if it's a buy-to-let or if it's their own home, I think that particularly if you don't have to, if you work in an office and you've lived in a house for years and you haven't really needed tradespeople, and then you move and you have a big renovation, like it's like an art of communication, being able to find the right person, communicate what you want for them to communicate, because that's the other problem. You have an amazing, like a perfect example is our gas guy, amazing gas guy. Like, I love him. I don't know if he listens, and if you do, I'm so sorry. Horrible business person, as in he doesn't invoice us for months at a time, and he's a lovely guy, like the nicest guy, amazing gas guy. But in terms of his marketing and his invoicing, he's awful. Like, and that's the problem. Sometimes these tradespeople can be amazing at what they're doing, but maybe they're not very good at communicating like costs or managing expectations. So I think a big part of it is in the communication piece, but I do personally think it can be quite a big issue. Well, I don't know, but what do you think? Have you had any problems with the renovations or anything, or tradespeople?
Yes, I have. I mean, I guess I have. I mean, I'm mainly the latest one is internet people. It's not a trade, but you know,
I do
kind
know
of
what you
an
mean.
installer.
Yeah.
An
Yeah.
installer. Yeah, I have had that. But I think sometimes, is it a case of like your favorite Chinese restaurant? Everybody seems to have a brilliant one near them. Like everybody seems to know, oh yeah, my builder, he's brilliant. It's like, okay, but does everybody say that? Doesn't everybody say that?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah,
Like,
it's a good
yeah,
point. It's a very good point. Because
I don't
we
know.
haven't really had, is this right? I don't think we've really had problems with tradesmen. With the only problem we have had is when two of them fell out, like handbags at dawn. They had an argument, they disagreed, and they both, and to be fair, like, so we had a builder who'd worked with for a long time, and then we had an electrician, and they just didn't get on. It was just a clash of personalities. But the electrician came to us and he was very kind of bitchy about it, and the builder didn't say anything to us at all. And then we had to go and talk to him because of the electrician had come and spoken to us. I think the same gas guy that I refer to, I think he was also kind of, he wasn't involved, but he had been there when all this stuff was going on. So we had spoken to him as well, and he was just like, basically the electrician was like a bit of a stirrer. So it came down to the fact that we'd worked with the builder longer. We preferred his professionalism compared to the electrician. The electrician was like, oh, basically picking everything the builder had done. And we were like, we didn't have any issues with his work. We thought he was exceptionally good.
Yeah.
So we were like, we would like to have kept working with him, but because they couldn't work together, we ended up not working with the electrician because it did, for the fact that everyone else could work together nicely, and he seemed to basically be the problem. So we just stopped working with him, found a new electrician, and we went on to work with that builder for like years, and then he selfishly went back to Poland so we could work with him. But he was fabulous, and I would still be, if he hadn't have gone back, I have no doubt I'd still be working with him today.
Okay, so let's start with the start.
The starts.
Let's talk about, let's say you have a property, whether you just buying it for the first time or whether you have one that you need to renovate after a certain amount of years, and you have several jobs in the property. So you're gonna need, you're gonna need different tradesmen here. You're gonna tradespeople. So you're gonna need an electrician. You're gonna need a plumber, a carpet fitter. Kind of it's a half trade, isn't it? Carpet fitting.
What? Oh, you used to be a carpet fitter, didn't you?
I can say that. I can offend the fitters because there's no qualification for it. It's just like a skill.
Oh, is that true? I'd never thought of that. That's interesting. But the thing is, it's hard though. Carpet fitting's really hard.
I know.
Like, there's a lot of rubbish carpet fitters. Were you a good one?
there are.
I'm assuming you're a good one.
I was an excellent carpet fitter.
Of course you were. You've got attention to detail. Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. But but if you try and like move to Canada or Australia or whatever, they only count it as a half trade. You can't go there on a carpet fitting trade because there's no qualification. So, but they do count it a little bit.
Yeah.
So, anyway, that's off topic. So you've got, let's just say you have no references to any builder whatsoever. You are literally starting completely blind. Where on earth do you begin?
There are various websites. So even if even if we're doing a project and someone said, "Oh, I've got builders, they're amazing." If it was me personally, I wouldn't even actually. I would potentially ask them to quote. I wouldn't just go to them just because they came referred to me from someone. I use a website called mybuilders.com. I talk about them a lot. I'm not affiliated with them in any way, shape or form. I have used them since we started and I have had exceptionally good experiences with them. There are other ones as well, I'm sure not, but specifically what mybuilders.com has is you post the job. It basically, you can put photos on, you can put description on, you can put if you've got budget and time scale, you can put all that on, but basically give as much information as you can. And then you can put, like I said, photos on, and it gets like sent out to the ether, and all of the tradespeople that are on My Builder will get like a notification, and they can like express an interest in the job. So for example, you want to have house rewires, like you'd post the job, you'd put the photos, and as much as you go down, as you get more experience, kind of what you need to put to help them. But to begin with, if you've got a 3-bedroom house that needs rewiring, just put 3-bedroom house needs rewiring. You'll come to learn what kind of information you need to put on it. And the idea is it gets sent out to everyone, and all interested tradesmen who are available, and that's the key, are available, because if Joe Bloggs has recommended his builder, you might speak to them and they're like, well, actually, I can't do it for 6 months. It's not necessarily helpful unless you don't need it for 6 months, but usually you need it fairly soon. So I will post a job, it'll get sent out, and as many people, you might have none, but usually you have 1, 2, 3. I think we've had up to like 8, 9, 10 people interested. You can shortlist up to 5 people. So when you shortlist them, it means you can go back and forth, you can have communication with them. And basically the shortlist is kind of the barrier. The tradesman can say that they're interested in the job. If they get shortlisted, my understanding is if they get shortlisted, they then pay for that lead. So you can shortlist 5. I only ever shortlist 3. There's no point. For me, there's no point in speaking to 5. I just want to speak to 3 people. And the idea being those 3 people have now paid for that lead and to speak to me. The reason I do 3 as well is I want 3 quotes, because if I get 1 quote, I don't know if that's a reasonable quote. If I get 2 quotes, and particularly they're different, I don't know which one's high and I don't know if one is high or the other one is low. So having 3 gives you some point of reference. So if you have 3 quotes, I mean, say it's a rewire and they're like, 2 people say £3,000 and the third person says £1,000, then you know the £1,000 is potentially too low. So basically you have 5 people you can shortlist. I only shortlist 3, and I have the communication with them. Ideally, let them come and see. It depends on the project. If it's something really small, if it's like a leaking tap, take a photo of the frickin' tap. You don't need to get them over to have a look. But if it's a bigger project like a rewire, invite them over to have a look at the property, to look at the project, because they might see something that you don't necessarily know. Yeah. And then they can't go, oh, it's a bigger job than I thought it was. Like, you've seen the job, you know how big it is. So post the job, shortlist 3 people, if necessary, get them over, have a conversation, get those quotes in writing on My Builder as well, because they can actually send a quote. So get it certainly in writing. Be very clear about what's included, what's not included. And like I said, you learn as you go. So to begin with, just ask them what's included in this quote. Is there anything that's not included? And then hopefully they'll cover all bases. The other nice thing about talking to 3 tradesmen is that you'll get 3 different perspectives, because we are about to renovate one of the Airbnbs, and we had it was for the painter and decorator actually, because I was like, there's old wallpaper, and I was like, get that wallpaper off, skim the walls and make it look beautiful, clean, fresh, white walls. And the first one was like, I wouldn't, he was like, because of the kind of property it is, he was like, you can see that he was like, you've got a really good finish. You don't need to take the wallpaper off and skim it. Like, you can barely tell there's wallpaper there. And I was like, that's a good point. And he's like, this is what I would do. I would just go around this bit, because there's one bit where it's next to a heater. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. The second person came and said exactly the same thing. And I was like, okay, now I'm really going to listen. And the third person came and said exactly the same thing. I was like, right, I'm going to listen. So it's useful to get 3 bits of advice. And sometimes I'll say slightly different things. You can then make an informed choice. So I really like speaking to 3 different tradesmen. It depends on the job. Like I said, if it's dripping tap, it's a whole different thing. But if it's a bigger job, I find it so useful to get that expert opinion from the 3 people.
Okay. I have 2 questions already.
Okay.
Does it cost anything for you as the end user, I guess, to use My Builder?
No. So you can set up an account free, and you post a job for free. The way that My Builder gets paid is the tradesmen pay for the leads. Effectively, they're paying. And it used to be done differently, and then it got changed. This was a number of years ago, and at the time we were talking to the tradesmen about it, and they were like, oh yeah, we pay £6 per lead. So they pay £6 for basically to be, once the person shortlists them, they pay like £6. And I hadn't thought about it, so I assumed that was still the case. And when we were talking to the electricians about the job, I was like, oh, is it still £6? You know, do you pay £6 for the lead? And he said, oh no, this is like 23 quid. And I was like, what? So he might not get it's a, couple of grand's job, but he might not get the job. But obviously, he knows his maximum of 1 in 5 chance of getting the job.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're paying, it's a very good website. They have, it's worth it from the tradesman's point of view, because they have all these jobs just sent to them. And they also, something I haven't mentioned is, that when a builder or a tradesperson says they're interested in the job, you can go in and see they've uploaded information about them and their business, so you can see a bit about them, where they're based and things like that. They can post photos of previous jobs. They can really market their business. But also there's references. So any previous job that they've done, the person who posted that job is invited to do a reference. So you can see if they've got 100% positive feedback and they've got 100 references, then you're fairly comfortable that they're going to be pretty good. If they've got there was one of the electricians that we were talking to, he had 5, I think it was something like 5 references, one of which was negative, and then they made a comment about it, and I was like, I had already been a little bit I'm not sure, there's something about him, and his quote was so low compared to everyone else, so there's a few red flags. And then I saw that and I was like, that for me, I was drawn to the other ones anyway, but I was like, that for me, I'm going to listen to that gut feel. I have used people who are brand new, have no references, because I know that it's in their interest to do a good job, So I don't always go on the references, but I think that's the first time I've ever actually listened to the references and gone, actually, I'm not going to use this person. So you can see the references, and obviously if you use them, make sure you leave references, because it's useful for other people. The other thing that they do is they check their insurance, because that is something that people rarely do. If you use a tradesman, say, well, actually, can I see your insurance certificate, please? Because if they mess up your house, they cock it up, they're going to potentially need insurance. And I don't think anyone asks, if you find someone off, through a referral, you don't tend to ask for you to see their insurance certificate. So it's nice, because then it's just there. This is they're insured up to X amount of money. So I think that's really useful.
Very good. Yeah, that is very good. Well, that answered my second question was about the quality assurance, because which you've already answered. So
see, we're so in tune, Richard.
I know, you're a professional. Because there's another website where tradesmen have to pay to be a member of. What was that?
Is that Trust?
No, not Checker. Trust.
No,
Trader?
no, Checker Trade. So there's a few. I think people always talk to me about Checker Trade, but Checker Trade don't have reviews. I don't think it's that. I think it's just like a directory of tradespeople, is my understanding.
Yeah, because I know tradesmen have complained to me about that before, saying people expect you to have that tick, but it doesn't actually mean anything. It doesn't
mean anything, yeah.
Because they don't do any checks on the work. They're supposed to do checks on the work regularly, but they never do, apparently. And they're saying, so you're kind of stuck in this, you're forced to pay the membership fee, which is pretty high, apparently. You pay the fee just to get the tick, so people think you're trusted, but it doesn't actually do anything. So be careful of those. I mean, again, I don't know if they're telling the truth or not, but that's what they've told me.
They have I don't think they'd have much reason to lie, to be honest. It does sound about right. Because I have found people before. I did try, if it is Checker Trade, I did try that, but it's just a direct, as far as I know, it's just a directory of tradespeople. So again, I'd be like, oh, I've got this job, are you interested? Oh no, I can't. I'm booked, sorry. And I was like, so I'm sure there's another one that rated, was it Rated People or something? There's another one that's similar to My Builder, but I always found My Builder was good. I've always talked about My Builder, and I don't know anyone. That was a bit too quick, Richard. But I don't know anyone else that uses it particularly. I'm like, because also Drew said, I don't know why you like My Builder so much. He's used it, but he's like, oh, I didn't get as many replies. But I think it depends how you use it. Drew is notoriously impatient with technology and websites and stuff, so I suspect it's in how he uses it. But I also had a client who had said that they had used it and they were like, oh, we got no reply. And I think what they'd done is they'd put house renovation on My Builder, and I don't think it's as effective. I think it's, if you think about who is more likely to use it, it's the plumber, the individual tradesperson. They're not part of a big team. So when if we have for example, we're renovating this property at the moment, so I've posted 2 jobs, and there's a third one to follow. So the first one is the rewire, the second one is the painting and decorating, the third one is new carpets. The kitchen, the bathroom are fine. So I'm breaking it down that way. But if I'd have posted renovate this property, I don't know. I mean, maybe I could test it, but I don't think you'd get as many replies because you don't have like the big teams on there. It's the individuals.
Yeah. But I wonder if it's going to be costing you more to split the jobs up, whether you
Could
get
be.
a better quote as a whole, but then you can't guarantee, because nobody is great at all of those things.
Yeah,
So
that's
are
it.
Are you
You'd
getting
paying
an odd
someone
job
to
man? Yeah, or not?
yes, but you're effectively paying someone to project manage it as well. So and again, you could even if you're like, well, I'm new, how do I know what to do when and stuff like that? What I would be doing is talking to the tradesmen. Like, start with the basic. Like, if you're getting your first rental property, it needs a full renovation. There are certain things you're going to know, like new kitchen, new bathroom, rewire, new boiler. I would break down as much as you know, and then say to them, like, come and get the quote and say, well, at what point, having the whole house renovated, at what point do I need to get you involved? Because we did this with a project not too long ago, where before I'd even got the property, as soon as we'd had the offer accepted, I was posting on my builder, and I broke down the sequence of events of what tradesmen needed to come in when, because I wanted to firm up the quotes. And I got them all lined up for, well, I haven't got the property yet, but it's going to be, at this point in time, we should be getting the keys. So I had the whole renovation all set up before I'd even got the keys to this property. You don't have to get that keen, because usually with my build, you'll get people that can start like this week or next week. So you don't have to do a big plan ahead. Yeah. But what was my point? So my point was, so you can start kind of talking to people, and they will give you advice. Like, if you're speaking to someone that, like, it wouldn't be, but the carpet people first, they'd be like, well, I come last because you need to do this. We can also cover this. Might be quite an interesting podcast episode. Like, if you're doing a full renovation, what order? Like,
yeah.
Let's break it. I'm not. I heavily rely on my team to guide me, but I know enough of what order things need to come, and maybe the costs as well. Like, if we renovate, how much does it cost, and what sequence of events? How would you fully renovate a property? And I can break it down the steps and roughly the costs, maybe.
That's a good idea. Good idea. Well, okay, now, until we are sponsored by My Builder, you're free to sponsor us. So until we are, this doesn't have to be exclusive to them. So if you don't want to use My Builder, and let's say someone says to you, yeah, I know this good builder, etc., what checks should you do if you're going to use them outside of a website like this? What can you do to sort of? I know it's very difficult to guarantee. So how can you mitigate some of the dangers? What sort of things would you need to be checking?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So first of all, I would be also using My Builder. We had one of our fences at the buy-to-lets replaced recently, and the tenant was really keen to use this person that had done the neighbours one. So I did My Builder, and then I also spoke to this fence guy, and I had just included him as one of the quotes. But yes, in terms of if we had have used him, what the checks are, kind of what we said, ideally check their insurance, and find out, like, I literally asked, because if someone doesn't have it, if someone is trying to get a job, particularly like that job was like £1,500 or something, I think, I can't remember. It's a lot of money. And if they don't have insurance, you say, do you have insurance? They're probably going to go, yeah. Like, ask to see their insurance certificate. Do you know what I mean? Yes. We did do that. We had to ask with our builder. There's that same builder, the Polish guy. I think it was, I can't remember the reason. It was early on. We've never had to do it since, but we had to get a copy of his insurance certificate to send for something. And he was like, what? Like, what? Because bear in mind, we'd worked with him for like 3 years by that point. He was like, why are you asking? It's like, we have to for something else. So he did send it to us, but he was a bit like, what? So it might not be something they're used to, but in all honesty, if you're worried, that's what I would do. The other thing you can do is I would definitely do some checks on who they are. Are they a limited company? I would check to see who they are. Like, and I would also, again, it depends how, in an ideal world, to be very thorough, I would definitely just check their company, see if they're a limited company. It doesn't matter if they're not, but it is kind of useful if they are. It kind of shows that they're like, I don't know, a little bit more professional. And also asked to see some of their previous work. So like with this neighbor, they were like, we've seen the work they've done down the road. That's why they wanted to do it. The guy was really fast with doing it. He was very nice. So they were really keen to work with him. So you could do that, ask to see some of the work that they've done. You could ask as well to speak to a previous client, because they might have done an amazing fence, but they might be horrible people. So, speak to a client, speak to another client and see the problem I have with all of this is, even as I'm talking, is that I think about all the easy ways around it. Like they could just give a family member and say, oh yeah, this is the person that I did. Like, if they're really not very good, there's ways around it. But they're the kind of way, that's the main thing I would do, is asking to see some other work they've done. And hopefully if it's come through a referral, you kind of have that, reference already. So just check that they're a legitimate company, I guess. And ideally their insurance.
Well, I think that insurance question is a very good one that everybody misses. So if you're listening,
we're
don't
too
pretend.
polite. It's
Don't
the whole
pretend,
polite thing. Yeah.
But you need to do that. If you do that on the first meeting when you're talking to them, it doesn't feel as awkward. Because if you ask them the day they're about to start, by the way, can you bring your insurance document with you? You're going to feel awkward saying
yes,
it. So to
very
say
true.
it on the quote, say, yeah, that's great. And if I could just see your insurance document, if you could just send that over to me for the quote, thank you very much. And it's a much easier conversation to have.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And get the quote in writing. There's also a big thing. Drew's really big into this, like quote versus estimate. Like it's not hang on, which is the right way around? He wants a quote, not an estimate or something.
Well, a quote is a
exactly.
specific
This
number.
is how much I'm gonna. Not like this is how much it might be, but might be more or less. Like this is how much it's gonna be. Like, he's. I'm not really. I don't know. I'm not so fixed on that, but Drew, that's a big thing for Drew. He's like, it needs to be a quote, not an estimate.
Well, the thing is, it is a way around things, and that is how they can increase the price. Because any unscrupulous builders can say, yeah, well, it was just an estimate. It did say estimate, not a quote. So I'm with Drew. Come on, Drew.
Yeah. This is again why I quite like mybuilder, .com, because there's not sponsors, because they know that you're going to be leaving feedback. Whereas if you're just Joe Blogs off the street, they could just be like, they don't really care what you think necessarily. On that, actually, it kind of also ties in, whether you're using MyBuilder or not, when it comes to payments, because this is something I think a lot of people don't know. It does depend slightly on the job, but generally don't pay everything up front anyway. No. But it depends on the job. But what we tend to do is 50% up front and 50% at the end, depending on the job. If there's like a legitimate reason that they need to be paid before the end of the job, do like 50%, then 40% halfway, and then 10% at the end. Always keep something back so that when they're like, oh, the job's done, you can go in, and if you're satisfied, then you can make the final payment. But we had a couple of years ago, we had a property that was painted and decorated for new tenants, and I went in, and there'd been problems with, anyway, there's been some stuff that was just like unforeseen, and the guy was absolutely fantastic, but I think he hadn't painted the woodwork or something. Oh, that was it. There was like a shelf that he hadn't painted. We were like painting the woodwork, and there was a wooden shelf and he hadn't painted it. And I felt really petty going back, because he'd had all these extra stuff that had been a bit of a nightmare. But I was like, we haven't painted this shelf, so he had to come back to paint it. I was like, we can't not have it painted. No. But I was like, you have to, I was like, can you just come back and paint the shelf, and then I'll send your payment over? Because I was like, even though, that it might feel like not a big deal, but it's important. It's like unless you're trying to get them to do something that wasn't included in the first agreement, it is important that the terms are agreed. You're going to pay the full amount. They have to do what was agreed. And that's why it's so useful getting the quote and writing what's included, what's not included.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a good idea. And actually to write down for yourself what you expect to be done, so you don't miss it when you go around checking, even stupid stuff like that, shelves painted, tick, so you can go around and check, because there's nothing worse than him going, it's all done, you look in the room and go, oh yeah, it looks great.
Yeah.
And if you haven't actually checked it, because you don't know what to check, because it does feel awkward when they say, yeah, there you go. You don't want to go around and go, okay, sir, let me just go and check everything first. that is just the way people are. They don't like doing that.
Yeah.
But if you do have a little checklist with yourself, you can go, yeah, I've checked all the stuff. Awesome,
Yeah.
because it's worse calling them back saying, hello, you've forgot a shelf.
Exactly. It is. You are so right. Like writing, like being very clear. Like again, it's the communication. If you can be clear in what, and again, if you put it in their job, if you're using My Builder or if you're sending them some information, be very clear. Like this is exactly what I want. This is what I don't want, or whatever it is. Get them over, look at the job, talk about it, get them to do a written quote. Like the written quotes, particularly the big jobs, are fantastic. Like we've got 3 quotes for a rewire recently, and they're very comprehensive. It's worth making sure that everything is very clear at the beginning, just to avoid any problems later on. Yeah.
I think it's
a good point.
The other thing is sometimes if you're not experienced in electrics or whatever you're having done, it can be very hard to judge what is actually a good job, because the electrician comes around and says, I've changed this, mate, it looks great, I've done all this, done all these lights, and you're just like, well, I've got no idea. Great job, thank you. And you think, oh, that's great. So sometimes there's no way around that. There's no way, unless you're getting someone else in, an independent inspector, to come round and check every single job you have done. It's just going to be experience. It's just going to be, wow, the finish on this one is so much better than the last guy, and I thought he was great, But sometimes you've just got to experience it, and even if somebody tells you that they're great, your level of expectation and quality can be totally different to the next person. So you might go, that's fine by me, and then the next person's like, well, I would have finished those corners off nicer, to be honest. And you're like, oh, I didn't even think about that. So you can't always get it right perfect every single time. It's almost more important to have someone reliable and somebody honest that who does the job they say they're going to do in a timely manner that they said they were going to do. The quality obviously needs to be to a certain standard, but it's no good if they do a brilliant job and then disappear for 3 weeks and don't talk to you. So you do,
because that happens. That does happen.
I know.
Yeah. Yeah, it is very true. Yeah.
So is that everything that everybody needs to know, roughly, on how to find a reliable tradesperson? Basically, use mybuilder.com. Not sponsored.
Yeah. One thing I would say not to do is to post. I mean, because sometimes I post jobs, I'm a bit like on the fence, and I'm like, I need the quote to work out if I want to go ahead with it. But remember that people are paying for these quotes. So like, try not to do a job, get people over it, and then just ghost them or leave the job open. Like I always, if I realize the job's not going ahead, I will make a point of closing the job, like, so that I just don't mess people around. But no, I think that was pretty much everything. When you're doing the post, say what you want done. When I always say, let me know what your quote is, when you can start, and how long the job's going to take. Because that's something I think that was something that took me far too long to realize, that it's really useful to know when can you start, and like for me, if I'm not in a rush, then I'll be like, it doesn't have to be immediate, but when can you start? Like, sometimes people think it needs to be done straight away. That is something actually I would say about My Builder. Like, it's pretty quick. Like, if you post a job, you'll get people, because they're paying for a lead, they'll reply as quickly as possible. They'll be trying to close you as quickly as possible. So if you're kind of just like, oh, I'm just like sussing out how much it's going to cost, I'm not really that bothered about it starting anytime soon. Like, that's not really the pace is quite quick on My Builder. If you need something done quickly, it's like, boom, it'll be done. But if you're kind of not that worried, make sure you put that maybe in the description, like, I'm not in a rush, like, I just, whatever. Actually, there is something else. Sorry, this is probably I started talking. This is also our mate, because originally we had this incredible team. Like, we had this builder that we used. We still use the same gas guy. Like I said, we changed electricians. We were very active in the first few years. We were buying a lot of properties. Then we kind of moved out of the area, had kids, and we didn't grow the portfolio for a while. So we just had bits of maintenance. So although we still use the same gas guy, because he does all of our boilers and services and stuff, and our builder went abroad, moved back to Poland. We then found with the minor maintenance, like if it's obviously a boiler thing or a gas thing, we'll get Barry rounds because he's fabulous. Love Barry. but all the other things, we then didn't have a team. Like when we're very active, we could literally call on our builder and be like, oh, can you just go and do this? And he'd pop around and do it. Like it was really beautiful. I had a great team that did everything. But as soon as we then weren't that active and the team kind of, you know, moved away, my builder, like for getting stuff done, and like Barry selfishly got himself poorly with COVID a few months ago.
Oh no.
Bless him. He was really poorly for a couple of weeks. And then he as you know, if you've been really ill with really poorly with COVID, you'll know that sometimes it can really take a long time to get your energy back. So he was really struggling to kind of come back. And we had a few bits and pieces going on with the properties. So I was posting stuff, trying to get, I think at Christmas, that was it. There was like 2 boilers went just before Christmas, and then something else happened in another property. It was like literally a Christmas Eve or something. And I used my builder, and we got these amazing tradesmen in, and it was like, boom, they went and sorted it out. So for minor maintenance, it's absolutely amazing. And we've got like the Airbnb, the garden was, I was posting TikToks and putting it on Instagram. The garden was just, I just don't know what happened there, but it was an absolute nightmare. And I posted some photos and stuff and put some descriptions on my build, and literally like the next day this guy turned up with this massive truck and just like hacked everything down. And he was there the whole day and just got on with it, and it was like 400 quid or something. He completely like decluttered the whole garden. It was absolutely phenomenal. I mean, he only did half it because the bottom bit needs doing as well, but we're like, there's no urgency for that, so he's quoted for that bit as well. But it's absolutely brilliant. It's like, if you want, it's like, I don't know, you see in films, don't you, people that come in and like clear up murders or something. Like it's that kind of thing that you can just put it on my build and this stranger turns up and fixes it. It's brilliant. I really like my builder. I don't know why more people don't talk about my builder. I really need to get sponsored by them.
I didn't really see how many mentions in this episode.
I know.
If anyone wants to count them, feel free. What about, you said about payment earlier. What is the best way to pay? Is it like a bank transfer? Is it on a card? Or
yes.
is there obviously, if you do it on credit card, you can claim it back if there's any fraud
that's
going
true.
on.
That's very true, actually.
Whereas a bank transfer is just sending the money. And then, of course, you've got the whole cash question, haven't you?
I don't know for sure, but I think if it's done through my builder and they've sent a quote and they've done the work and then they don't do it, I have a feeling, I'm not entirely 100% sure on this, so check this. I have a feeling there's some insurance with it. So if they... I don't know. Would they need to, if they know the tradesman has insurance? Would they need to? I don't know. It's a good question. I might have a look into that. But in terms of payment, I mean, what normally happens is they'll send you an invoice and I'll have payment details on. So normally a bank transfer. But yeah, you could probably send it through eBay, like, and that would have insurance, or like you said, use a credit card. I'm sure if you ask the tradesman, say, can I pay, on credit card, they'd probably do it as well. I think most people would. Depends what it is. If it's leaking tap. But yeah. Okay. But for us, we just send the payment. Remember, we'd send like half at the beginning, half at the beginning, half at the end. Yeah,
that's what I'm doing now. I'm having my bathroom done at the moment, so we're done 50% down. It's someone I know, so it's not so bad. But they wouldn't accept Bitcoin, so I had to pay money.
Fair enough. Yeah, the cash thing's another one though, like cash in hand, because the idea is, because I'm a bit naive, because I'm from a very professional background, so I'm a bit naive with stuff like this, but the idea is if it's cash in hand, they don't put it through the books, so they're not paying tax on it. But the problem is that if you are putting it through your books and you're saying like that, because you obviously want it as an expense, like capital gains tax is freaking expensive, as we know. We've just paid like 19 grand in capital gains tax or something on a property. So you want to put as many expenses through the business as possible. If you've bought a property, you're renovating it, you want that to be legitimate through the business. So if you've got a tradesman saying, oh, can I have cash in hand? I assume they're expecting you not to put it through, because they're not going to give you like, well, again, I don't know if this is always the case, but in theory, they shouldn't be giving you paperwork because it's paper trail. Yeah. So, but you need that invoice, you need that receipt to show you've paid it. And so you can have it as an expense. So it's up to you. It's a personal choice. I personally wouldn't do cash in hands, just because we need it to be... Because the idea is that, but the idea is they're like, well, I can do it a bit cheaper if it's cash in hands. We've had people have asked, you know, to get cash in hands. But we're like, well, we need the receipt, we need the paperwork. So if they're happy to give it to us and take it cash in hands, then it's like fine. But we're always like, we need the paperwork.
Yeah, of course we don't endorse this because that is
It's tax evasion, isn't it?
So don't do that. But you know, it does happen. You can't
It
deny
does,
it.
yeah.
So okay, all right. Well, hopefully that's helped some people. Basically discover mybuilder.com. That's what that's done. But it does sound really good. I haven't actually used it, so that does sound really good. Actually, I'll have to have a play. So
I'm
if
slightly
anybody's
worried.
listening,
Yeah, sorry.
I was to say, if anybody's listening has used my builder or had any good or bad experiences, then please email in and let us know your thoughts. You know, obviously having endorsements from everybody listening would be good as well.
I am slightly worried because I'm the only person that talks about my builder. Maybe everyone else thinks it's really rubbish and it's only me who thinks it's good.
I have to check the details, see if you're not a board member or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
A shareholder.
I should set up my own version of mybuilder.com. I confuse people because I talk about my builder, and I was talking to a client ages ago and I was like, oh yeah, like I had said mybuilder.com, but then I went on to say my builder, and he then thought I was talking about my builder. We had this very confused conversation because he was like, oh, can I have your builder? And I was like, what do you mean? He was like, you've been talking about my builder. And I was like, oh no, the website.
Right, so where can people email in if they want to, Anna?
The best place, you can either go to propertyempress.com and there's a contact form, or you can email me at anna@annapearce, which is PEARCE.com. You can also contact me through Instagram via direct messaging. I am quite slow to reply, particularly as the kids have been on half term for the last 2 weeks. So I'm not particularly fast at replying. I do always reply. I will reply, but it probably won't be straight away. But yes, they're the main places. You could also find me on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Ooh. And I also am going to completely sidetrack us now and say that I've got my buy-set. Oh no! Carry on as you are. Oh, this is coming out after my buy-set course. I will have just had my buy-set course, which will have been fabulous, and hopefully you're all on it.
Fantastic. Okay, well, if you want to find me, I am pretty much property on Instagram, or you can just email the podcast here, and I will get it. So it's lovely being back on the show. So thank you so much, Anna.
It's so nice to have you back, Richard. It really is. It's just a far more fun, vibrant atmosphere with you here. So yeah, it's really good to have you back. Obviously, like, you know, you've been moving house, and that is quite understandable that you couldn't be on the last 2 podcasts, but it is nice to have you back. How is the new house, by the way?
Oh, it's amazing. Oh,
yeah.
So nice. Yeah, you'll have to come and visit.
Yes, please.
It's fabulous.
You're right by the sea, aren't you?
Oh, right by the sea. 9-minute walk to the sea.
Wow. Oh my
Beautiful.
Gosh.
Beautiful.
Heaven.
So we'll see next week which location I'll be in.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it looks like some sort of prison here. This is a plain room I'm in. Literally zero decoration going on in here. So next week I might be in the van. I might be in a car park. I have no idea. But we'll record the next episode, and hopefully my voice would have cleared up as well.
Yeah.
I sound very
croaky or
very
husky.
White.
Yes. Yeah.
But thank you so much for listening, everybody. Please check out the YouTube channel for Anna, because obviously things are starting to go onto YouTube now. So if you use YouTube, who doesn't, then make sure you subscribe. So thank you, Anna. We'll speak to you next week.
Thanks, Richard. Thank you so much, everyone. See you next week.
Goodbye.
Bye.